Yes, thank you, Jason. Thank you, everyone, for joining my presentation today. In fact, it's not just going to be me. I will be presenting with my colleagues, Nicola, who will be giving you a nice demo in a couple of minutes, and also Homer. Homer will be manning the Q&A section. Well, today's topic is the strategy builder for MotiveWave. You know, MotiveWave is such a great platform. In fact, this is one of the very first platforms I started programming for and which I started using for my own trading. And it is so rich in features. It has probably the most advanced features of any trading platform out there. But there was always one piece missing in the platform, which is a strategy builder. And this is really a magic tool which will allow you, we're going to, of course, talk about this, to click together your strategy without any programming knowledge. And how this will work, we'll show you in this presentation. All right, so but before we get into the weeds, let me just introduce a little bit what exactly we are going to talk about today. We'll start off by talking about what about us. So what is our story? Who is TradingIndicators.com? Where do we come from? And what are our objectives? And then we're going to get right into the strategy builder. I will show you what is possible with this tool, which is really unique. It's one of a kind, and it has been designed for you traders, to realize or imagine your dreams in trading and trying out ideas. We're going to discuss the features of the strategy builder. Of course, we're going to have several demos throughout this webinar. We're going to end up with discussing what are typical workflows of using the strategy builder. And we will conclude by a special offer, which we have prepared as a thank you to all of you for attending this webinar. And as mentioned before, if you have any questions, feel free to just write them into the Q&A box. We'll try to address them throughout this presentation. All right, so my name is Daniel, as mentioned before, and I'm a managing partner of TradingIndicators.com. Before I talk about Trading Indicators, let me give you a little bit of my background, because my background on my story is a bit different of perhaps what you hear from other trading educators and in other webinars. I'm actually a software engineer by training. For the longest time, I was trying to become a professor in software engineering at the university. So I went through all the levels, I did research, and then I left university at some point and started working for major companies. But again, in the area of software engineering, I was at banks, at Morgan Stanley, and so forth. But I always had this passion, which is trading. And it was really a passion for me. It was a big interest. And of course, in the very beginning, more than 10 years ago, I made all the mistakes that everybody else does. I overtraded. I took too much risk. I revenge traded. I took trades where the odds are not in my favor. You know, you name it, I've probably done it. And I came to the conclusion after, having substantial losses that, wow, trading is hard and I need help. And for me, needing help meant I need better tools which will help me in my trading journey. So I started programming. I started writing my automated strategies. I started to automate things that I thought might be working well in the market and was testing them. This is really how the story behind Trading Indicators started. We started off with writing tools for our own use. And then we thought, if they're useful for us, for our own purpose, perhaps they are also useful for others. And then we started creating an online store, which is TradingIndicators.com. So if you type in, or maybe Homer can type it into the chat, if you go to TradingIndicators.com, you'll see an online store where we offer several trading products for various purposes. In fact, we have a very versatile team. So we have traders on board, we have UX designers, we have software engineers and algo programmers. And we're all working together to develop powerful and innovative trading solutions for you, the trader. Some of you probably, and I've seen some familiar names, have attended our last webinar with MotiveWave, where we introduced an initial version of the tool that we're showing today. And in fact, at that point, we were launching a beta version of it. We're recruiting beta users. And over several months of being in this beta phase, we have received so many amazing comments from customers and traders like you. And we've integrated most of them into what we're going to demonstrate today. So we really listen to you, the trader, to our customers, and we use the feedback to improve our tools further. This not only holds true for the strategy builder, which we are showing today, but for any tool that we are offering on our online store, tradingindicators.com. All right, so let's get started. Now, just imagine for a second. Imagine you have a trading idea, an approach which you think it may work. So typically what you would do, you would probably try it out in a demo account if you're disciplined enough, or maybe you jump right away into a live account and start messing around with it. And there's a big risk that if it doesn't work out, you may lose some money. This is not the ideal approach. But what if it was possible? If you could click together without any programming knowledge, your strategy using MotiveWave. With just a few mouse clicks, you put it together, and then you use MotiveWave's replay tool or live trading tool to test the strategy. Huh? Wouldn't that be cool? So this is really the idea that we had in mind when creating the strategy builder, because this is perhaps the only feature in MotiveWave that might be still missing. Well, think about the following. You have already a trade opened. You found a great entry, and now it comes to manage your trade. It comes to perhaps tightening the stop loss or locking in profits or taking partial profits. But what is the best approach to this? Well, again, this comes back to our strategy builder. You could write a strategy entirely dedicated for exiting out of a position. Again, without any programming skills, just with a few mouse clicks. Or you perhaps just acquired a new indicator, maybe on our store, maybe from somebody else. Maybe it was built into MotiveWave, and you want to find out how well is this indicator actually performing. You might have an intuition by looking at the entry and exits on the chart, but is this really sustainable? You never know. But now with the strategy builder, you can actually wrap around a strategy around that indicator, run it through MotiveWave, and get detailed statistics of how well this indicator was performing. This all is super easy. As you will see, we will create several strategies in this conversation in less than 5 minutes and just a few clicks. All right. So this is where the strategy builder comes in. So this is our tool. We call the strategy builder. It is designed for MotiveWave, and it's one of a kind. So this didn't exist before, and we were trying to close that gap by developing the strategy builder. And we are really pushing the limits of what is currently possible with MotiveWave. We showcased this tool to the developers, to Tony and Jason. They said, "Wow, how do you do this?" Because many of the things that how MotiveWave can be extended, MotiveWave can be extended, but typically not in the way how the strategy builder extends MotiveWave. So really pushing the limits, and many years and months of research went into this product. And the strategy builder will work with any MotiveWave version, which supports indicators on indicators. And what that means, we'll show you in just a bit. All right. So what can you do with the strategy builder? Well, first of all, you can create automated strategies. So once something is automated, a really important feature opens up. You can test it. If it's manual, it's really hard to test it. It's really hard to get reliable statistics. But once something is automated, you can run it, for example, through the MotiveWave replayer to test this strategy on a given chart and time frame. And then once done, you can look at a detailed report how well the strategy was performing in terms of gains, in terms of drawdowns, in terms of profit factor, or any other statistic. So in our case, with the strategy builder, you can click together various trading plans. This is our internal terminology to create a strategy. A trading plan consists of several conditions which must be fulfilled to take an action. So for example, an MA or fast MA must cross above a slow MA to go long on the market, or perhaps go and submit a limit order. Going long on the market, submitting an order, these are actions which can be taken when a condition is fulfilled. And we have built in several predefined conditions and actions into the strategy builder ready for you to reuse. You can fully customize your strategies. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks in this presentation with what we call study, account, and time-based conditions. For example, you may want to say, I only want to go long if I have not already lost $500 today. Or maybe you want to shut down trading if you are up by a certain amount, because you don't want to overtrade. Or perhaps you want to say, I only want to trade between 9:30 and 11 a.m. in the morning, because that's when the market is right for my strategy. And this is all possible with the strategy builder. And just one more example. What if you already had an entry and now it's time to take partial profits? So basically you want to scale out of the strategy. That's possible too with the strategy builder in just a few clicks. All right. So, and of course, once you have built your strategy, you can back test it. Okay, back testing means you can run it in MotiveWave and get some statistics how well your strategy has performed. And then once you have this back test done, the performance will no longer be based on your intuition. It will be based on empirical facts. You will have hard facts. What is the historical performance of that strategy? And me as a software engineer, this was always an important part because I do not trust my intuition. I trust the numbers. And now you have the chance to develop your own strategies and get those hard numbers. And of course, just like with any tool, you are able to save your strategy. You can reload it. And once saved, you can also share your strategy with others if you like. All right. So without further ado, I will pass on the word to Nicola, who will give you a first demo of the strategy builder. And then I will continue talking. Nicola, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So as Daniel said, and actually, Daniel, please let me know when you can see my screen and see MotiveWave. I can see it.
Yes.
Okay. So as Daniel said, the big idea with the strategy builder is really allowing you to build automated strategies around values from custom or built-in studies, as well as time-based and account-based conditions. Or just plain old price data like OHLC or volume, and just allow you to set up a strategy based on whatever you want and let it run automatically. So what I want to do here is just give you a quick introductory glimpse as to what is possible with the strategy builder. So I'm going to build a simple strategy based around the Bollinger Band study, which is built into MotiveWave. Let me apply it to the charts. And what I'm going to demonstrate here is a very simple strategy. So what's going to happen is when the low of the bar crosses below the lower band of the Bollinger study, the strategy is going to go long. It'll enter long for, let's say, 100 shares of Apple. I'm on the Apple 1-minute chart here. And when the high of the bar crosses above the upper band, I'm going to go short 100 shares of Apple. And in each instance, for each of these trades taken, the strategy builder will set a target 100 ticks above the entry price and a stop loss 100 ticks below. So basically, we're just going long in a case like this when we cross below with a 100 tick profit target and stop loss, and we're going short when we cross above with the same targets and stops. So this is very simple. And right away, I'm going to apply the strategy builder to the chart. I'll walk you through how you can set up a strategy like this. So when you're presented with the strategy builder, you're first able to either create a new strategy or load an existing one. And when you create and save a strategy, it's saved to a file that you can then load again later, which allows you to easily save your strategies and the ideas you liked. So we'll call this one Bollinger Band Simple. And I'll select a save location. Got it, a strategy builder folder here. Select folder. Cool. So now we move to the next tab. And when you're building a strategy, you want to think as the tabs in the strategy builder as kind of steps. So you start out, create or load, and then we move to global settings. These are things we're not going to touch now for this simple strategy, but you can decide, hey, do you want the strategy builder's logic, the strategy's logic to function intra-bar with every update of the bar every tick? Only when the bar opens, only when the bar closes, etc. There are many other options the max entries per direction, etc., that we're not going to be touching for this simple strategy. What we're going to do is we're going to hop right into our trading plans. So if you recall, what we said we wanted the strategy to do is when the low of the bar crosses below the lower band of the strategy of the Bollinger Band, we want to go long. So for our first plan here, let's make this our long entry plan. We'll first open up our plot conditions. Here, as you can see, we have plot conditions, account conditions, and time conditions.
Yeah, and you can think of a plot condition of an indicator-based condition. So that's maybe a different word for that. In this case, the condition will be based on the Bollinger Bands indicator. Okay.
Exactly. So when we open up these plot conditions, by plots, we're actually referring to the plots that are put on the chart by any studies you have applied to that chart. So long as the study you want to base your strategy on puts its plot values inside of this little window here, the cursor data window, you're able to use them for your strategy. So for our plot condition, we said, and when we open up our plot conditions, you're given a bunch of 15 actually possible plot conditions per plan. And you need to click enable to put one of them into action. So we'll enable one. And we're going to say, when the low of the bar crosses below the low of the bar 0 bars ago, so the current bar, if the current bar low crosses below the Bollinger Band bottom plot right here, 0 bars ago, then we won't put any counter time conditions. Then we'll take an action. Over here, we see we set our conditions and it leads to an action if that is satisfied. And our action is we're going to enter long. So we click an entry right here, and we'll say entry type will be long. We don't need to worry about this setting right now, rearm interbar. And we're then able to say, hey, what type of order do we want to create? And what will be the size of the order, the quantity of shares or lots that we want to submit. And in this case for Apple, I'm going to say, hey, I want to set a specific quantity. And there's a bunch of different options you can enter. For now, we're just going to click specific quantity, one of the most simple ones. And we'll say we'll enter 100 shares long at market. And we could have used a limit or a stop order. To keep it simple, we're going to click market. So this is our long entry. When we cross below the lower band, we go long. And we'll create another plan. So that was our long entry plan. Hey, when we go below the lower band, let's go long. And this one, when we go above the upper band, we're going to go short. So I'll enable a plot condition. I'll say when the high of the bar, 0 bars ago, crosses above the upper band, BB top, 0 bars ago, again, then let's go short. And we're going to use the same logic. Short, don't touch this. And we're going to say specific quantity, 100 shares. And it's going to be a market order. So we've now set up our trading plans. What are our entries and exits? That's kind of what trading plan refers to. But trading plans also carry over into the next step, which is setting your targets and stops if you want to, or if you need to for your strategy. And we're going to set 2 simple targets and stops, one for each plan. So for our long entry or our long position that we're going to take, we're going to have a profit target. And in our profit target, we want to say we want this to be associated with plan 1, our long entry plan. We click it, and we know we want it to be a simple target type, just ticks. There's many other options, which we'll get into later. And we want it to be a 100 tick profit target. And for the size of the target order, there's many options. Again, you can set it to a percentage of the entry order size associated with the plan, a percentage of your total account position, a specific quantity. We're just going to go with remaining plan position, which means that it's going to close out the entire long position once this target is hit.
Yeah, the reason why you see the other options in here is, for example, to be able to scale out of a position. In this case, we're just going to close out the entire position, but you have the chance to scale out of some of the other options that you've seen.
Exactly. You can make much more complex strategies. And for the order type, we're going to make it a limit target order. So when our long entry occurs, when we enter a long position, it's immediately going to send this limit target order to the broker, and it's going to place this order for you on your account. So the order type is limits, 100 ticks. And we're going to do the same thing for our short position. I'm going to do this a little more quickly, but our short position is plan 2. Again, it's going to be a 100 tick target order, and it will be limit, and we will close out the remaining planned position when we hit that target. So now both of our positions or our trade plans have targets set up for them. We're going to do the same thing for stops. So when we open up this stop here, and by the way, just to get this out of the way, you have a potential of 20 targets and stops. So you can create these rows and columns of targets and stops, and it adds a lot of variety and possibility for scaling in and out of your strategies. So for this first stop, we'll associate that with our long entry. It'll again be 100 ticks. We're going to close out the rest of the position when the order is hit, and it'll be a stop order. We see here, we're not going to use these. We'll use them later, but we have the ability to actually create a trailing stop order. We're not going to do that right now. So a simple stop order will be placed 100 ticks away from the entry price. We're going to do the same thing now for our short entry. 100 ticks, stop for plan 2, and close the remaining plan position. Just going to review to make sure I have the right settings, and I do. So what will happen now when we run this strategy is most likely what we expected.
When so basically, just before you start, Nicola, what we've done right now, and Nicola was explaining a lot, we basically clicked together a fully automated strategy, which can now be used in replay mode, for example, but could also be used in live trading, just like that. So that's
and I'm going to, Daniel, touch on that point too, is I already had replay open. If you don't know about replay mode, when you're in MotiveWave, up on the top right here of the toolbar, there is this button right here. It's a rotating button that says replay mode. When you click this, you're able to then set a start time back in history, where you're then able to essentially replay historical bars as they go forward, which will allow us to test the strategy and how it performs.
Nicola and Daniel, can I ask a couple of questions?
Of course.
Okay. Michael wants to know that in the Bollinger Band strategy, could you set the exit when breaches top the Bollinger Band?
Can I set the exit? Yeah, definitely. I can do that in several ways. For example, let's say I wanted to enter my long position, exit my long position, which was initiated by plan 1 when we hit the top band. I could create a new plan right here, which says when the let's say when the high crosses above the BB top, then and we are long. When the current market position is long, then I want to make an exit, and we can say, for the total account position. That's one way to do it. And another way to do it is I can set a profit target or a stop loss, and we'll see this later. I'll get into this. And we can actually make the profit target or stop loss plot based and say, hey, I want this limit order to be placed at the Bollinger Band top, either at the moment when I entered, or I wanted to just follow it dynamically. But we're going to get into this in the future, Michael.
Yeah, so there's many ways to do it. But yeah, this is a very common use case that you said, Michael. So it is possible.
A couple of other questions, just so we can get through them more general. Is there a repository of proven trading plans?
Not at this moment. It really depends on which indicators you're using. And just as a side note, the strategy builder will work with external indicators, which might be proprietary to you, which you may have acquired on a third-party marketplace. So it's because of this, we do not offer a repository, but it's up to you to perhaps to create one. And oftentimes, I think users they keep secret of their trading secrets. So we do not have such a repository, but now it is quite easy to create your own strategies, test it, and then you'll see how it works.
But we do have, we can send to you, we do have example strategies based on some built-in studies where we've actually provided the strategy file. You can load it up and run it. I think we have a couple based on some of our own indicators we sell, as well as based on simple moving average crossovers, etc. And you can find those files on YouTube video links and in our knowledge base, which we can link to you.
And one last question, can a proven strategy search for the stocks that provide best results?
Can you repeat that, please?
Can a proven strategy search for the stocks that provide best results?
No, this is currently not possible. But what you could do, let's say you find an indicator which really works well, that you want to trade according to, which you figured out with the strategy builder. You can then use the MotiveWave scanner to identify signals in that for that indicator, or stocks which currently have a signal for that indicator. So that might be a small workaround, but you could not scan for on which symbol does your strategy perform best. You would need to run through these manually. Yeah.
Any more questions, Homa?
There are a whole bunch, but I'll let you get through this and I'll come back to you.
Sure, yeah, because we're going to get into some more advanced features shortly. So I'm just going to confirm I did not, as I was answering that question, change anything. No. So we're going to let this strategy run in replay mode. And we'll see what it does. So initially, I clicked run, and immediately the low of this bar crossed beneath the lower Bollinger Band, and we entered long for 100 shares. Just get rid of this window right here. Right here, we entered at an average entry price of 173.51, and our limit order was placed here, 100 ticks above our entry, and our stop was placed 100 ticks below. So when we let the strategy run, you see we hit our stop. And when one of our trading plans is executed again, the same thing will happen. So here we crossed above with the high of this bar, the Bollinger Band up here. And as you can see, we entered short on the bar following. And that's because in our global settings, this strategy is set to execute on bar close. If it was set to execute on bar update, intra-bar, it would have entered short on the bar as we crossed above that bar, that upper band. And as we went short here, our stop was placed up here, and our target down here. So this was just to demonstrate really quickly just how fast you can set up a strategy, albeit a very simple strategy, very quickly.
Yeah. And Nicola, maybe real quick, before we move on, can you show how once you've run your strategy in replay mode, how you can look at some statistics?
Yeah, definitely. So this strategy here that I've set up obviously isn't doing too well for the time being. It's $200 in the loss. So I'm going to deactivate it. And once you've run a strategy for a long time and you want to know, what's the real statistics about its performance, similar to the statistics you get in the optimizer, MotiveWave provides this handy feature. So up here, you can click this plus button and click trade report, which will open a trade report window. So this trade report window will essentially generate a report, provide you the statistics about the results of your trades. And you need to select the appropriate account. I'm just going to make sure I know which account was running here. So this strategy we just ran was ran on the replay 1 account. I can go to trading report, select replay 1, and I'll say, hey, give me a report for all of the trades that it's taken. Generate report, and it'll give me all of these statistics. As you can see, it closed with a total P&L of negative 205. We see that up here, total net profit. And it'll give you all of these other useful statistics, much like the optimizer, where we can check the reports and for different periods, as well as a list of all of the trades and executions.
Great.
So that's very useful.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Nicola. So I hope you got an first intuition of how you can create your own strategies using the strategy builder. Let me quickly take over the screen again.
Yeah.
And talk about some of the features that you've already seen now and some of the features which are more advanced.
Daniel?
Yes.
I just want to answer a question from Matthias Bauer. He asked, does the strategy builder work on all indicators of MotiveWave, all the built-in indicators? And the answer to that is the strategy builder will work on any indicator which provides information in the cursor data window. So we see here with Bollinger Bands, we can see that the Bollinger top, Bollinger middle, Bollinger bottom values are visible in the cursor data window. Strategy builder can be built. It can build strategies around those values. If the study you're talking about doesn't provide any values here, it's purely visual, you cannot incorporate them in the strategy builder. But with any luck, those studies that you're talking about, which don't provide values potentially, they can be edited and customized to provide these values and become compatible with the builder.
Yeah, and we provide such a service. So if you have a study which right now does not, in quotes, export its values, we could most likely enhance it that way. But the good news is that I would say 95% of all studies, maybe even more, in MotiveWave, they do export these values properly and can be reused in the strategy builder.
I have a few other questions here. If we're on to questions, H. Sana wants to know, can we set buy and sell orders on options based on indicators on stock?
No.
Okay.
So,
well, it is possible if it's a customized study, obviously, but yeah, you can't do that directly through the strategy builder, but it is possible, Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong. If they want to trade an option based on the inputs from an indicator on another stock, it can't, a custom study can technically be created for that purpose, most likely.
Oh yeah, a custom study. I guess, okay. So if you had such an indicator which can fetch the data accordingly of what you said, then this might be able to reuse in the strategy builder to create your own automated strategy. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Alice wants to know, how can he set the strategy entry and exit slope?
Entry and exit slope. What's meant by that? Could you please clarify?
Yeah. So Alice, if you can please clarify in the chat
and we
window.
can come back to these specific questions towards the end as well. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead then.
All right. So let me take the screen again. Just give me 1 second. And perfect. Okay. So we've already seen our first strategy. And now let's talk about some of the key features that we have built into the strategy builder. Now, 50 strategy builder, you can click together strategies based on what we call entry and exit conditions. And entry conditions, for example, could be based on some indicator readings, some indicator crossing above price, or an indicator, an MA crossing above another MA, for example. But it can also be based on what we call account positions. For example, you may only want to take a trade if you are net positive for the day, or you may only want to take a long trade if you're not already long. Okay. This is what we call account positions. And then we also have what we call time conditions, where you can constrain your trading for certain times of the day, or perhaps certain days of the week. Maybe you figured out, wow, Wednesdays really works well for Apple, and you want to constrain your strategy to only trade on Wednesdays. That's possible with the strategy builder as well. You can also submit targets and stops, as Nicola has shown in his sample strategy. And these targets and stops, they can be based on a certain tick value, they can be based on a certain dollar amount, or based on indicator readings as well. And you have the option to enter into the market with different order types. So we've seen market orders to enter in the sample strategy, but we could also have submitted a limit order, perhaps a couple of ticks below the current market price, or a stop entry order where you require the market to first follow through in your trade direction before you can take a trade. And of course, everything is visual. Again, no programming knowledge is needed. All right. So, and of course, you can load and save your strategies for easy reuse and sharing. Now, we've also built into the strategy builder some what we call pro features, which really are meant for taking the next step with your strategy. For example, you can create trading stops with your strategy, which will drill your stop loss at a certain predefined distance to lock in profits. For example, it will be very easy to create a strategy which does not have a predefined target. Instead, it only has a trading stop. And as long as the market goes into the direction of the trade, you will just keep trading the stock, locking in more and more profits. We will also have plot following orders. For example, you want to exit whenever the upper Bollinger Band is reached by a broker submitted order. This is possible as well. We have intra-bar entries. Right now, we have seen the entry at the end of the bar, but we could have also entered within a bar before the bar has been closed. And this goes for both entries and exits. You will be able to create strategies which scale into a position or scale out of a position where you book partial profits along the way. You can base your logic on multiple timeframes where you have indicators applied to the chart, which perhaps read the chart time frame, but maybe on a different time frame as well. And you can base your strategies on these indicators. We have different order types for pending orders. By default, it is good until canceled, but you also have the option to submit order types, which will expire at the end of the day. And more. When I say and more, I'd like to point out that the strategy builder is really a live product. We are constantly enhancing it by adding new features, mainly by the feedback that we are receiving from you guys. So if you have a good idea of what could be added to the strategy builder, let us know. And if it is possible, we're more than happy to add it into it. Okay, so these were the some of the additional features of the strategy builder. Now let's put these into action as well. Nicola, can you take over?
Yes, definitely.
Good.
Okay, one moment, please. All right. And Abhijit, I will get to your question right after showing this example. Okay, share screen. Can you see my screen, Daniel?
Yes.
Okay. So here I'm going to build a slightly more complicated strategy just to show how the trailing stop orders or different order types can work. So in this strategy, I'm on S&P futures 5-minute chart, ES, and we're going to build a strategy around a built-in study for MotiveWave again called support/resistance. I'll apply to the chart. And basically the way this study works is there are support and resistance lines drawn on the chart. And when price crosses above or below the resistance or support, we get these arrow markers, which show up in the cursor data window, as you can see there at the bottom, the last row, called cross support or cross resistance, cross resistance, cross support. And we see that the values are true when it happens. So what I would like to do is build a strategy where when we cross above resistance, we go long, and we don't set a profit target. We just set a trailing stop loss. So we let our trade run until we finally hit that trailing stop. And when we cross below support, we do the same on the short side. So let's hop right into it. I'll open up the strategy builder and we'll start from scratch again. So I'll call this support, support resistance trailing. Set a location for it here, just for demonstration purposes. Again, we're going to leave the global settings simple as possible. And I'll hop into our trading plans. So our first plan will be a long trade. So for our plot condition, we want to go long when we get that signal that we crossed resistance. And that'll be visible here in this plot dropdown because the study actually exports it to the cursor data window. So we see here when cross resistance line, now for our condition, we'll say is true. Then we want to go long, and we'll go long for the default. We'll go long at market for the default trade lots. And by the way, when you select default trade lots for the record, it's actually referring in your trading options, as you'll see in any strategy, to this option right here called trade lots. So we're going to go long for the default trade lots, which is 1 in this case. And we're actually also going to set a condition just to demonstrate based on time. So I only want this strategy. Let's say for some reason, I have a bias where I only want to trade between 9 a.m. So for bars that start at or after 9 a.m., and we could have said, I only want to trade on, these days of the week, etc. I only want to trade at or after 9 a.m. and for bars that also end at or before 12:30. So this strategy is only going to take trades between 9 and 12:30. It's a lot like trading sessions. And in this case, we're going to go long. And when we get the opposite signal, which is crosses below support, cross support line, when that's true, we're going to go short. And we will go short at market, default trade lots, perfect. And again, at these times, ends at or before 12:30. Great. And for our targets and stops, we're not going to have any targets, but we're going to have 2 trailing stops.
Yeah, and just a quick remark: if you can follow what Nicolas is doing, because he's doing it fairly quick, because we have some time constraints in this webinar. Don't worry, we'll be having demo sessions and practice sessions on how to use all these features of the strategy builder.
Yeah, and a common question from Abhijit is is there any learning material? And yes, definitely. If we can get your email later or you contact us, there is a list of videos that we can provide as well as a user manual with several examples, kind of teaching you from 0 to 100 how you can actually learn how to use the strategy builder and build strategies of varying complexity. And we'll be in the future adding to those videos. Okay, so here I'm going to create for my first stop for my long trade. I'm going to associate it with plan 1 because that's the plan that I created a long trade for. And we're not going to click ticks. We're actually going to say, hey, I want to make a stop order, but my stop type, I want it to be plot. Actually, sorry, I was jumping ahead. We're not going to do that. We're actually going to make it tick-based again. I'll be getting this quickly, plot-based orders. And we're going to say, hey, start with a 50 tick stop, but we want the stop to trail by 100 ticks. So it's going to start off with a 50 tick stop, but it's going to trail by 100 ticks.
And for those of you who are not sure what a trading stop is, basically a trading stop is a stop that kicks in once you're at a certain profit level. In this case, once we're at least 100 ticks in profit, we're going to start trailing our stop at this distance. And as price moves in our direction, the stop level will be trailed, and we are locking in profits that way. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm going to set that as my trailing stop for plan 1. And for plan 2, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to have a 50 tick stop for plan 2. It's going to be a stop order and trail it by 100 ticks. So what should happen now is once we get our signal, we'll take an entry and our stop order will be placed and subsequently trailed. Okay, so we're on the 5-minute chart for ES. We'll let it run. Now for this first entry, we just got a signal right here, which entered us long, and we placed our stop order down here.
This is the initial stop level. Yeah.
And we went down. We hit our stop. Okay. Or did we? Yeah, we hit our stop and we subsequently went short. So what happened is we went long. It placed a stop order. We actually ended up not even hitting our stop order. We just went short because we crossed below the support line and the position reversed, right? Mm-hmm. So plan 2 kicked in. And, the cursor data window was blocking it. So what happened was we went long and then we reversed short once we got this signal. And our short stop loss is now placed here. And we're going to see as price continues lower, our stop order trails downwards. Yeah. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So here's our stop order. We can continue forward anyways. We ended up hitting our trailing stop. Wait for another trade. And our trades, again, will only be taken between 9 and 12:30. So any signals that happen here, we're not taking any trades. We're going to wait for this window coming up between 9 and 12:30. So here, if there's any signals, like here, we just got a short entry. Got a long entry. I'll get too lucky here with trailing. Here, so here we are heading downwards as we're short, and our stop order has now trailed down with our short position. Did you see that, Daniel?
Yes.
Is that visible? Okay.
Yeah.
And it's trailing, keeping us in the profit. Not trailing anymore as we're not heading downwards anymore. Keeps trailing. And finally, we exited and hit our trailing order. And again, we're not entering again because we're not in the window we set in our conditions.
The trading stop is a really powerful feature. If you really want to squeeze as most out of a trade as possible, if you hit a good run, a good uptrend or downtrend, you don't want to exit prematurely. You want to keep it running. You want to keep in the trade as long as possible. And the trading stop is a perfect tool to lock in these profits as long as humanly possible. Yeah. All right.
And one other thing I wanted to demonstrate along the lines of trailing orders is a feature we've added recently called follow plot. So I'm going to hop over to the 15-minute chart for ES. And I'm going to start a new strategy, which again is going to be based on a built-in study called acceleration bands, somewhat like Bollinger Bands. And for this strategy, let's say, for example, that I had a long bias because we're on S&P Mini, and I only want to trade long. And the strategy I want to create is I want to, when the low of the bar crosses below the lower acceleration band, I want to go long, and I want to set a trailing stop, but I also want to set a profit target. But the profit target I set, I don't want it to be static. I don't want it to only stay at one place. I actually want it to follow the upper band. So if the upper band goes up, I want the profit target to go up with it. And if it goes down, I want it to follow down with it. And let's get into that right now. I'm going to call it acceleration bands dynamic. Quickly set the location. And we'll start off just creating the trailing plan. Sorry, the trading plan right here. Okay, it's a little weird. Okay, enable. And if the low of the bar crosses below the AB bottom, then I want to go long. As I mentioned, I have a long bias on ES. So I'm just going to enter long, default trade lots, market, not worry about any of these settings. But for the targets and stops, I want my stop, as I mentioned, to be trailing. So I'll say 100 tick trailing stop to start, but then it will trail by 200 ticks. And for the target, now I want it to be a plot-based target. So I'll say I want a limit target, plot-based, but I don't want it to be a static value that I set or a number of ticks. Now I'm going to say I want my target's value to always be at the value of the upper acceleration band. So I'll say follow plot. I'm telling this order every bar or on bar update, whatever I had set in global settings, I want this order to be updated with my broker to only be placed at the value of this plot, or to continuously be replaced the value of this plot. And I'm actually going to put an offset on it. So I want it to be set at the acceleration band top, but plus 50 ticks. Okay. So we'll see how this looks. Here, I just went long. When we crossed below here, the low cross, it placed my trailing stop and my profit target, which is 50 ticks above the upper band. And as we move forward, we'll watch this profit target. If you keep an eye on it, let's move this little window. It's moving with the the top acceleration band. Here, I just hit the profit target. Again, we saw that trailing stop stay down here and the profit target move down with the upper band. And you'll see it adjusting itself as well as the trailing stop as the plots develop. So this can add a lot of interesting variety to your strategies. And again, opens the window for a lot of cool approaches to your trading.
Yeah, exactly. And the follow plot feature was actually brought to us by a beta user of the strategy builder who had that idea. And we decided, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's put it in. Yeah. All right, perfect. Okay, so Nicola, I think we're good with the demo, unless you have something else to demo.
No, I think I've gotten across, and I just want to mention again, like one other cool thing, I think it answers a question that was asked, was can multiple strategies play off of each other? Yes, so you can, as you'll see in the user manual, you can apply separate various instances of the strategy builder at once and have multiple strategies active at once on the same chart.
Yeah, exactly.
So go ahead, Daniel.
So for example, I'm going to keep your screen open, Nicola. Who are other questions we should answer while looking at the screen?
We have a bunch of questions. Not all of them are related, but I think we should go through some of them. Did you want to do that now or a bit later?
Let's do some of the some questions now. Yeah.
Okay.
Nicola, maybe stop the screen. Yeah, so just
sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Nicola, perhaps you can answer some of them in the Q&A as well, because I don't think we'll be able to get through all of them live.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll open up right now.
Thank you. So I clarified with LS, how may I set the strategy entry and exit slope that he was referring to the angle, he said.
So I think you're meaning like, can you create a strategy which enters a long position or a short position, and then based on a certain angle of, let's say, a line, it exits once price crosses that line? And do you agree with that, Daniel? That's kind of the
I think
interpretation.
I think he was interested, not the angle, but just the fact whether, let's say, an MA is going up or down. I think the angle might be because the angle would always depend on what's your zoom factor on the chart and so forth. That's probably not, but whether an MA is going up or down and then enter, for example.
So that's currently that's not possible directly with the strategy builder, but you can very easily have a custom study built to, build whatever you have in mind for this slope idea. And that's something we provide, that kind of custom development, if you want to contact us.
But I have to say that's a great idea, and this is probably a feature which we'll be looking to add to the strategy builder in a future version.
Yeah, Michael's chimed in, and he thinks the meaning is a linear regression line, crossing a linear regression line, which is a common approach.
Well, this definitely would be possible. So we have the cross conditions built in, and if you have the linear regression indicator on the chart, twice in like two different configurations, then we can look for the cross of the two lines with the strategy builder. That's already possible.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Sure. Perfect. Actually, with Michael, I've been having a bit of a philosophical back and forth in the chat window. So back testing. So he wants to know. He compared this to a back testing tool, and what is the relationship with back testing versus somebody wanting to build a strategy? So I wouldn't say that this is a back testing tool. So can you clarify, Daniel, a little bit about this?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe let me just go back to our Imagine slide at the very beginning. So what the strategy builder allows you to do is several things. So yes, you are able to try out an idea that you have in mind. This is where your back testing comes in. And absolutely, you can do this. So you have an idea, for example, let's say you want to use the acceleration bands indicator and follow the entries, and you want to figure out, is this actually profitable potentially or not? Yes, definitely can do this, and you can run it through the replay mode to back test or to test your idea. But another very important use case for the strategy builder is you can actually use the build strategy to fully automate your trading. So this could be a strategy which handles both entries and exits, as Nicola has shown. It could be a strategy which only handles entries and you do the exits manually, or vice versa. It could be a strategy where you perhaps enter manually and let the strategy automate the exit, the scaling out of the position. And this can be done, and this can be used in live trading, in demo trading, and in replay mode. So it's much more than just a back tester.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah.
Fernando wants to know, can you optimize the plan inputs in MotiveWave?
I just, I've just privately answered Fernando. So he's wondering, can you optimize the plan inputs? And I just said, that's a feature we're looking at, for the future, possibly the distant future. But yes, the answer is it's a potential future feature. And I'd also like at the same time to answer a couple of these questions about multi-time frames. Can we do entry and exit on multi-time frames? And yes, that's something we've listed. Within the strategy builder, there is nothing based on multi-time frames directly available. But with studies in MotiveWave, I'm going to just share my screen, Daniel, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Very quickly. So in MotiveWave, let's say I want to apply an SMA. I'm able to, let's say, okay, on this 15-minute chart of ES, which I'm on right now, I want to have a 20 SMA. But I can then say in my options, I actually want the SMA that I'm looking at here on this chart to be based on the 1 hour. So I want it to be a 1 hour SMA. We see right here, plotted on the 15-minute chart. So in this sense, now I'm getting information from the 1 hour chart with this SMA right here, because in its options, I'm saying use 1 hour chart. In this case,
is one of my favorite features of MotiveWave, by the way. So it's really cool.
And now in this case, I can go into my plots and say, hey, give me that information from that SMA on the 1 hour on the 15-minute and trade off of it. And I could build my strategies around that. And that's one of the main uses of this feature here we just added called rearm intrabar. And this thing basically allows a plan. So let's say I'm on a 1 hour chart, but I want to trade based on the 1 minute SMA. Well, you can have a plan which will enter, if you're on the 1 hour chart, enter and exit, 100 times if you keep hitting your profit targets and stop losses and you keep re-entering based on whatever conditions you set. If you select rearm intrabar and say, hey, I wanted to reevaluate on bar update every tick, So you can actually have your plan, you know, basically if you're basing your logic on a lower time frame, you know, a smaller one, you can rearm intrabar and you can effectively trade based on information from multiple time frames.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, if this was a bit too fast, guys, don't worry. We have plenty of material to teach you through it and to explain all these options to you in detail. All right. So I'm going to share my screen because I want to, Homer, before we go into the remaining questions, just quickly wrap up what would be a typical workflow to create a new strategy with the strategy builder. It's actually quite simple. So you would start off by open up your chart, and then you add all the indicators that you want to
Daniel,
use in your
just
strategy.
so you know, we're not seeing the full view of your slides. We're seeing the preview and the next slide. Yeah.
Oops. Thank you.
Welcome.
So I'll stop sharing real quick. Now we'll redo it. All right. Share the screen. There we go. Perfect. Now it should be good, right? Okay. So so what would be the workflow to create a new strategy? So first you add all the indicators to your chart in the desired timeframes that you want to use in your strategy. Then you can save these studies as a template for easy reuse. So you don't have to, if you want to continue your strategy later on, you don't have to manually add all these indicators again. So you can save it as a MotiveWave chart template. Then open up the strategy builder, create a new strategy, of course, name it and save it and configure it, and then simply use it in replay mode or live trading if you desire. Now, if you already have a strategy, or perhaps if somebody sent you a strategy that somebody else created, you would, first of all, again, reapply all the indicators that are used by the strategy to the chart. And if they are saved as a template, you can just simply load the template. Open up the strategy builder, choose the load existing strategy option, select the file where the strategy was saved, and then click create. Potentially modify the settings if you want to, and then again, use the strategy in replay mode or in live trading. So quite simple. And if you use computers that follows pretty much the paradigm as just editing a document in Word or Excel.